Hello again. 16 years ago, James Watson, one of those who discovered the nature of DNA and the man who went on to become the most famous geneticist of the 20th century, fell suddenly from grace and in the process became one of the first people to be cancelled in the modern sense. His crime was saying that he was gloomy about the prospects for Africa, as who is not. He then went on to talk about black people in America, saying, all our social policies are based on the fact that their intelligence is the same as ours, whereas all the testing says not really. Now, when the world's greatest expert in genetics says such a thing, it might perhaps be worth listening to him and asking for further details. Instead, he was dropped by publishers in the academic world, and from that time in 2007 to the present day, he's been treated like a leper. That is what is meant by being cancelled, of course, and James Watson was probably the first high-profile example of this process. Now somebody else has fallen in the same way. Cartoonist Scott Adams, who created the hapless office worker Dilbert almost 35 years ago, is perhaps not in the same league as a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, but he's been caught in the same trap. In the description to this video, I give a link to a clip of film in which viewers can hear what Scott Adams said, which has led to every newspaper in the United States ditching the Dilbert cartoons. From the Washington Post to the Boston Globe, he has been declared a non-person, and everybody is urged to shun and reject him for his racist rant. By the by, I wonder if I'm the only person to notice that racists always apparently rant. Watching Adams speak, I wouldn't really describe him as ranting. He's rather expressing his irritation at something. You will never hear the speeches of anti-racists being described as rants, although many of them are, of course. Why is that? Well, saying that somebody who is expressing views against racism was ranting would, I suppose, make you a racist yourself. As it happens, I don't agree with what Scott Adams says, but that's neither here nor there. A recent opinion poll, I give a link to the findings, asked a variety of people if black people could be racist as well as white. Almost 80% of those asked this question, which contradicts, of course, one of the most basic tenets of critical race theory, agreed that black people could indeed be racist. 66% of black people also agreed with this proposition, which is interesting. What provoked Adams, though, was a question about the slogan, "It's okay to be white." The Anti-Defamation League in America, an offshoot of B'nai B'rith, has asserted that this is a hate chant, which is, of course, idiotic, but that, again, is by the by. Most people questioned thought that this statement was fine, including 53% of black people. So far, so good. Scott Adams, though, said that because almost half of the black people asked thought that it was not acceptable to say that it's okay to be white, this meant that black people as a whole are a hate group, and he advises white people to, as he puts it, get the hell away from black people. I'm bound to say that I have difficulty following his reasoning here, and I don't really think that his argument is sound from a logical perspective, at least not based on the data which he cites. He says that he's also tired of seeing clips of film of black people attacking white people, and so for that matter am I, but there's no reason at all to suppose that those filmed assaults represent anything other than a tiny minority of black people. I'm not at all convinced that I can draw any general conclusions about black people just from films like that on YouTube. So essentially, I disagree with what Adams says, but that doesn't mean for a moment that I think that he's a racist or that he is ranting. He is rather expressing an opinion with which I disagree. Should he, like James Watson, now be cast into the outer darkness for his personal opinions and deprived of his livelihood? Of course not. That's outrageous and unjust. It is, however, what happens these days to those who refuse to keep their mouths shut and toe the party line. No doubt, in the fullness of time, it's what will happen to me too. Incidentally, Elon Musk, who, as we know, took over Twitter recently, supports Scott Adams, and he says that the media are racist towards white people. So, on the face of it, that sounds as though Elon Musk has got similar views and feels the same as many of us do. It's curious, though, that Twitter recently banned the patriotic, what do we call it? Not front, alliance, is it? With their leader, Mark Collett, for being racist. So I think Elon Musk can't quite make up his mind where he stands on that particular issue.